everyone, welcome to today's video. I'm here with a special guest.
Hello, I'm Moo.
And she has her own YouTube channel, which I will link in the description. But we're here to talk about friendships, making friends in your 20s, our experience, tips, just discussing the whole struggle. We have our little microphones, clink, here, and we're gonna be talking about it. It's gonna be honestly like cozy chit chat podcast type vibes, so this is probably gonna be a long chatty one, but yeah, hope you guys are ready. We're just gonna go ahead and get started, and maybe we can just talk about generally, because I've been hearing a lot of people talking about making friends in your 20s, maybe our experience, and then we can go into like how we met.
Okay, yeah, but also I've been seeing a lot of videos about being in your 20s and how it's okay to not have friends as well.
Ooh, that's a good point.
And I think we should talk about like not having friends and also making friends if you want to have friends,
yeah, for sure.
If you're ready for that level of commitment.
Yeah, because I feel like the 20s is such a weird time because at least in my experience, most of my friends that I've had were through school. Seeing my friends every day, and like it's very easy to make friends when you're in school just because you see them all the time, you're always socializing.
You have to be there.
Yeah, but then once you're like, especially out of college, trying to make friends can be kind of tricky.
For sure.
And yeah, I feel like this is something that a lot of people struggle with because it's like, how do you meet people? Especially like if you work from home, because I also work from home.
Yeah, but also because in terms of work, I like to keep my work and personal separate. So at work, I wouldn't really see them as like, oh, I want to be friends with them, you know? So when I'm at work, I'm like, oh, that's work, and personal is outside of work. So for me, like after high school, because high school, I think I had a pretty decent, maybe average, like social life.
Yeah.
But after high school, my friends like strayed away. So I was in that weird period of wanting to make friends, but also not really having friends.
Yeah.
But also COVID was going on at the same time.
Yeah.
COVID happened. So when I was in college, I couldn't really do any of the social things that I thought about, like joining clubs and just like being around people, because I was only on campus for, I want to say 2 semesters, and then the rest of my college experience was online. So I didn't really get that chance to meet friends, which I don't want to say I regret, because like I couldn't do anything about that. You know, it's COVID.
Like, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, but now that I'm like, I think my frontal lobe is developing.
She's there.
I'm like, maybe I should go out and make friends. You know, like be the person that I wanted to be when I couldn't be. So
that makes a lot of sense. I feel like I had a similar experience where I had friends from high school that I carried into college. Not very many. I would say that at the time there was like 2 that I really liked and that we stayed in contact with, though they were in different states. So I feel like having long distance friendships can be very different.
Tough.
Yeah. And so one, we were no longer friends, and then another one, we stayed friends, but like we only talk, like we catch up on FaceTime like once a month. Like that's what we do. We don't text every day. We kind of just like let life happen and then catch up, and then we're here like FaceTiming and then like adding new characters and trying to like catch each other up into the tea. And so eventually, like similar to you, COVID happened, and that's when I feel like I was starting to be more social, because I was like volunteering, I was thinking about joining clubs, and then I couldn't. And also in college, I felt like a lot of times I would meet people, but then they would only be friends in that class. Yeah. Like it wouldn't.
Or for that semester.
For sure.
Once it's over, it's like never see them again.
Bye. Like I'm never gonna see you again. So I always had a hard time trying to like bring a friendship further than just class. And then also when COVID happened, like I didn't know how to make friends, though I did actually join a club during COVID, and that was helpful because it was virtual. And then eventually when COVID stopped, not stopped, but like when
slowed down a bit.
Yeah, when campus opened up, we met in person, and it was a fun way to make friends through my club. But I felt like there was a period, which is when we met, and we can talk about, but I had no friends because I had a falling out with one, and then my other one was so far away, and I felt like, and maybe we can talk about this too, like when you're in a relationship, sometimes you can think that like, oh, I'm getting all my social interaction with this person, and you don't try to make new friends, especially like female friends. Like I value female friends so much, and I I can't get that with like a partner, at least of the opposite gender. So yeah, want to talk a little bit about how we met, which, I mean, we met on Bumble, so maybe we can tell our sides, like where were you in life and what brought you to Bumble, and I can share.
Okay, yeah, so like I said, in high school is when I was at my, I guess, pretty average social life.
Yeah.
I had 3 really good friends, and 2 of them moved far away, but one, who was my best friend at the time, she moved to, I think it was London.
Oh.
But yeah, it was a study abroad thing. And we were keeping in contact, writing letters with one another.
Oh, that's so cute.
It was, but I think she got to a point where, I don't know, we just weren't as close as we used to be, maybe with the distance. But yeah, so we stopped talking. But also, like, because that whole group, like, we all knew each other. We were, like, best friends throughout high school, but they all still like talk to each other, but they kind of just kicked me out of the group.
I hate that so much.
It was a bit sad because I was like, you know, what did I do?
Yeah.
But at the same time, they were also getting into things that I wasn't, you know, into, like drinking and trying new things. So
yeah.
So I was like, maybe it's for the best, because those don't really align with, you know, my values, and I don't want to be around people who might pressure me into doing things like that, even though I don't think they were the type. But still, it's like being around that kind of stuff, it just makes me like uneasy, maybe. But yeah, so then I went on Bumble. I was like, maybe I'll just find, you know, people near me who want to hang out. But at the same time, at that time, I couldn't drive. Like,
I remember that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I didn't get my license until I was, I think, like 20.
Yeah.
So yeah, I couldn't drive, and I didn't want to be that person who had to like always rely on someone to like pick me up and drive me everywhere. So that's why, even though I was looking for friends, I kind of was keeping everything like online, which looking back now, I'm like, no wonder they didn't want to like stay friends, you know?
Yeah.
But I think after I got my license, I was like, I'm gonna go meet people. But I was meeting boys.
As one does.
I was meeting boys, and a lot of them, I didn't call them dates because I wasn't sure like what I wanted it to be. A lot of them, I was like, you know, we're gonna hang out as friends.
Yeah.
And then see where it goes, because I mean, the best relationships start out as friendships.
Did they like you? Did you know?
They did. That's why it didn't go far, because obviously they were there to like date, and I was like, I don't know if I want to date you though.
Yeah.
So I met a lot of boys, and eventually I found one that made me want to stop meeting boys. So we're not together anymore. But my point was, after I got into that relationship, I stopped meeting people. But I didn't even get to where we met.
Yeah, I was like, where am I in this? Where am I in this story?
Hold on, pause. Let me rewind. Okay. After my friend group kicked me out, I went on Bumble.
I love how we started talking about boys.
I know. I was like, wait, because COVID really messed up like my perception of time. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I was like, what happened after COVID?
Yeah, because I'm remembering things, but I'm like, girl, we met at this point. So when
I forgot we knew each other before. Okay, sorry, rewind. So I was on Bumble and I met Amina. Honestly, a lot of the people, like I said, that I was talking to, I kept it like online because I couldn't drive.
Yeah.
So it was weird, but I think the reason why we like kept in contact with one another was that we send like video we send video messages on Snapchat with the funny like face filter that like changes your voice and face. And I don't know, I feel like it was more real than texting.
I hate texting.
Yeah, because I'm not a texter.
Yeah.
And I'm also, you mentioned like having a friend that you catch up once a month. I actually prefer something like that, because like doing it every day, like with you it's okay, but like doing it every day with someone that I'm just like trying to figure out if I want to be friends with them. I'm like, what do you even talk about on the daily? You know? Yeah, so then we met, and I don't know, we're still friends. It's been like
a while.
It's been 4 years, and maybe
we've only hung out a handful of times.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
We probably hung out like 5 times.
5 times or something.
6.
And like 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, we hung out for the first time in years.
Yeah, because of that boy. Because of that boy, I bet.
So for me, like I said, it was 2020, COVID. Wanted to meet new people, was on Bumble, and it was kind of hard because lots of people like to go out and drink and party, and I feel like trying to find friends that align with you, like with hobbies and what they like to do for fun, can be tricky, because I really like to do like chill things, like granny things, like I like wholesome activities, to chat and stuff like that. And I don't know, at the time, and even now if I'm on Bumble, it's hard to shift through, or at least like try to find people who you think you could be friends with, because, and I talked about this with, I don't know who, but being a nice person isn't necessarily enough to be friends.
Yeah.
Like, you want to like be able to click.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, I remember I saw your profile and you didn't have anything on there that was a red flag. Yeah, it seemed like we had a lot in common. And we did start off texting. And then I remember you asked, I think, for the Snapchat, and you did the filter thing. And then I was like, okay, I guess we're doing that. And also, having friends that match your energy is also really fun.
For sure.
And that's honestly why I think we're still friends. Because like I said, we didn't hang out often. And so, if I'm in a friendship where we have to text, it's not gonna last.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of my friendships, I think all of my friendships, either we FaceTime at some point. It doesn't have to be every day, but once a month, once a week, something. Or send audio messages. I love doing that.
Too.
I literally only have Snapchat for you. Like that. Me too. I would probably have deleted it if it wasn't for you. So like, I need to talk outside of texting. If our only relationship is texting, I can probably guarantee it's not gonna last.
Yeah.
It's too much energy. But yeah, me and you started talking that way, and then throughout the years, it's been like up and down of how often we would send audios. For the past year, it was probably like once a month we would send audios and just kind of catch up, and there'd be long audios or like Snapchats. Now they're shorter and more frequent. And now also we're trying to hang out more because 2020 we're trying to like socialize more. Oh my god, 2025, I forgot the year. Yeah, we're trying to socialize more and get out of our comfort zone and all that stuff. So yeah, maybe we can talk a little bit about boys now and how that can affect female friendships, because I do think it's a contributing factor for a lot of people.
Because I was in a long-term relationship. It lasted 3 years, but during that time, I think I only saw you once. I think maybe twice.
It could have been once though, because I remember before him, we hung out. We went to that one park, and then we saw a movie. We went thrifting.
Yeah, we went to, what was it, Plato's Closet?
Did we? That's crazy. I guess we went thrifting. Yeah. Maybe that was the same. Oh, did we get? I don't feel like there was a time we got boba, but I don't drink boba.
No, I don't think we did.
Okay, well, I remember there was a time where we saw In the Heights together. I think that was the last time that we hung out.
No, because when you brought up movie, I was like, did we watch a movie together?
Yeah, it was In the Heights.
Yes, I remember.
Because I remember we cried.
Yeah, I remember.
We were both crying with Abuela. But we didn't look at each other.
It was good though. It was good.
Yeah. Well, I feel like the movie sucked, but the music's good.
Yeah, the music.
The ending made no sense to me. But anyways, neither here nor there. So I don't remember hanging out when you were in your last relationship, but it could have been. They'll carry on.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, did we hang out?
I don't remember.
But that's the thing, because I got into this relationship and I was with him, like all the free time that I had was pretty much towards him. And like we still sent snaps and stuff, but it became a lot less frequent.
Yeah.
And a lot of it had to do with like him being near me at all times. I was like, I don't know, I wasn't finding the time to prioritize friendships, and I was all in on this relationship.
Yeah.
But, you know, towards the end of it, that's when I was like, I need to make some friends.
Yeah.
I need to, or reconnect with friends as well. I was like, this relationship isn't going to serve me my whole life. And even now that, like, I'm not currently in a relationship, I think I've gotten to the point where I've realized, like, how important it is to keep those connections. And if I get into a relationship, that I shouldn't, you know, this is the only person I'm going to hang out with all the time, every day, you know? Like, because I see them every day, and that's wonderful. But at the same time, it's like, it's rare to see your friends, and it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah. And I feel like I was the same way. Like, when I met you, I was already in a relationship. And I feel like for me, like, me and him weren't living together at the time, but like, I know every week, every Sunday, we were going to hang out together. So for me, it felt almost draining to like try to have another social event. Like, I was in school, and then I knew I was going to see him on Sundays. And then so I didn't go to school every day, but like trying to find that balance would be exhausting to me. And I almost felt content, not even almost, I felt content keeping it online and only like Snapchatting or whatnot. And I was like, oh, I could just like interact that way. Like, we don't necessarily need to hang out, but there's a lot of value in like hanging out in person, doing things in person.
But also, I think that's why we like worked so well, because we were both content with it just being online. At that time, I was like, I just want online friends because I can't handle like going out. Well, also I couldn't drive, but at the same time, like, where do I find the time to hang out with someone else? So it worked out.
I mean, it did work out, and now we're kind of on the same time now, where it's like, okay, let's hang out in person now, because it is crazy. We've been friends for like 5 years, 4 or 5 years, and we've hung out like 5 times.
Yeah.
So I was also in the same boat, and like trying to find friends was exhausting. And also on Bumble, talking to multiple girls, that's exhausting.
It's crazy.
Like, answering the same questions all the time, like, hey, how are you? What do you like to do for fun? It's too much to me, and I can only sometimes focus on 1 or 2 friends at a time. And I felt like because we were connecting so well, I just stopped
looking.
So for a while, I felt like it was only my relationship, you, and then my friend who lived in New York at the time.
Yeah.
Those were like my 3 people that I would talk to on a daily. And the only person that I would see like physically in person was my boyfriend. I feel like when you're in a relationship, like, it's just too easy to brush aside your female friendships and other friendships. And that's something that I'm really trying to not do anymore, because like, I don't know, girls are just girls. I love girls. Yeah.
No, honestly, because you brought that up, I was never the type to really have female friends like that. Like, after high school, I was so convinced, like, oh, I just get along better with boys. And that's why when I was going out with guys, I was seeing it as a friend thing rather than like a dating thing, even though it was on dating terms.
Yeah.
So that was like my fault entirely. But at the same time, like, I was raised with brothers, and I feel like growing up, a lot of my hobbies had to do with like things that my brothers were into, like gaming. We did some like sports together, things like that. And so now that I graduated and been going out with girls since like the start of this year.
She's been hanging out.
Yeah. I'm like, wow, girls are different. Dude, like, I love it. So that's why now I'm like, who cares about boys?
For real. And it's funny that you say that, because I grew up with an older sister. I never had male friendships really, like, at least important deep ones or nothing like that, but I still brushed it to the side. But I think, and this is bringing it back to high school, I had a terrible situation with friends. Like, I was in a friend group, and they gradually, like, well, first of all, I was the first one to get kicked out of that friend group. When I think back to that time, it was like a sucky situation, because like I went to a new school in 8th grade, and it was a K through 12, so we were gonna go to high school together, and we were close in 8th grade, 9th grade also good, 10th grade good until like the middle. And then they started excluding me, started making plans in front of me, talking about a group chat in front of me, and I'll be like,
the worst.
I know, and I'll be like, oh, what group chat are y'all talking about? And then they would just pretend I didn't say anything, and I would see them on Instagram hanging out, and I'm like, dang, I wasn't even invited. It was such a crappy situation, and I just kind of removed myself from that. And then I eventually made new friends, which was nice. But I think because of that situation, it kind of made me feel insecure about making new friends, because I was always, I don't know, I always have like a seed of doubt, like, oh, it's not gonna last, or something's gonna happen, or they're gonna exclude me. Like, exclusion is like my biggest pet peeve with like friendships, and something that causes me a lot of anxiety in like groups of people, because I'm just like always thinking, oh, I'm gonna be alone, I'm gonna be lonely, I'm gonna get kicked out. So I feel like that stopped me from liking to make in-person friendships.
Also, because like on Bumble, they have pictures, and sometimes I see people with groups of friends, and I'm like, I swipe left because I don't want to be part of like that group,
it's established.
Like, it's already a group, like they all know each other, I'll be the odd one out. So I'm like, you already have too many friends.
Like, why are you here?
Why are you here? So anything like that, I just swipe left.
I agree. Like, not that I need like a single friend, like you can have other friends, but it is intimidating to me when I'm swiping and I see like large groups of friends, and I'm just like, ugh, I don't know. And I get it, sometimes they like move, like so those are pictures of friends from another state or town or whatever. But yeah, the trauma is thick, so just swipe left.
And also when they invite you out, but they're like, hey, do you want to do something with me and my friends?
I've never gotten that, but I would say no.
I would say.
Didn't you get in a situation like that?
I did.
And left or something?
I did, but it was a friend, like we all didn't know each other, but it was only 3 other people and 2 were in a couple. So like we were all strangers, but it was still like kind of, I felt out because you know the couple, they're a couple.
Yeah.
So and then the other girl, like she was trying her best to kind of include everyone because she was the one who started that group. But at the same time, I didn't know the couple. Like I thought I was just hanging out with her. So I just felt it was awkward. It was weird for me.
I feel like friendships and navigating that can be equally, if not probably even more confusing than romantic ones. Like when you're dating, I know that you're into me. I know like the steps and how this goes, what I want and like where I want this to lead. But with friendships, it can be kind of hard to navigate.
Also because when you're dating, you ask like, hey, are we dating, or like, do you want to be my boyfriend / girlfriend?
Yeah.
And in friendships, you don't really ask someone, hey, do you want to be my friend?
Yeah.
You know, it's like the more you talk, the more you hang out with someone, you just know that you're friends at that point. But no one really asks like, do you want to be friends? And if they do, I don't know, it's a little weird to me.
What do you say? Like I don't, especially if you don't know them. Yeah. It's like, I don't know, do I want to be your friend?
Yeah, especially like in an online situation and the first thing they say is like, hey, do you want to be friends? Like because they see what you're into and they like you, but it's like, I don't know you, you know? So how do I know if I want to be friends?
And especially if it's just on like Paper or Bumble, it's like on my thing, it's like ticked off things I like to do. And if someone like has similar hobbies, that's not enough. Like even if we like different things, a lot of times it's just the personality. Can we match each other's energy? Do we get each other's humor? Yeah. Like stuff like that.
And humor is a big one too.
It is.
I was hanging out with this girl for dinner and she was showing me like a bunch of things that she thought was funny, and I was like, I couldn't even fake a laugh because she was like, don't fake a laugh if it's not funny, and I was like,
oh, she said that?
She's like, don't laugh if it's not funny. And I was like, yeah, we just have different sense of humor.
Yeah.
I told her.
Was it like memes?
It was memes. It was like TikTok stuff, and I'm not in that world, so I don't know what's going on. And I was like, I don't know. I can't even bring up an example, but it was just something I would not laugh at.
Because we were talking a little bit about our experience and people in their 20s having a difficult time.
Yeah.
What do you think is the reason for that? Like, why is it in your 20s people are like, oh, I don't know how to make friends?
I feel like because 20s, you're still exploring, you're still growing, you don't know who you are really. And if you do, like, I don't want to say you're lying to yourself, but there's still so much for you to learn. Yeah. And like, for example, because I'm turning 24 soon, if I compare myself to how I was even like at the beginning of last year, I feel like, I don't want to say I'm completely different, but there's so much that I've learned where if I looked at myself, how I am now from how I was before, I'd be like, who is she? Yeah. You know, like, so to say like 20s, that's a whole decade. So to say that like you have it all figured out when you're just starting, like, you know, adulting, it's wild to me, because the transition from being in high school, being in college, if that's what you're doing, if not like just working, I don't want to say like working an adult job, but just working in general, and then maybe advancing where you are in that job, every step is different, and a whole year, like anything can happen in a year.
Yeah,
so
I agree. And I feel like too, like a lot of times it can be when like your childhood friendships, high school friendships start to die because you're growing so much. And so it makes sense if you guys aren't aligned anymore and like you grow apart, because it's natural, you know what I mean? And like you said, we're growing and we're trying to figure out what we like. I know what I'm looking for in a friend, but like that sounds weird. Like, you know what I mean?
No,
like,
I get it, yeah.
Like I just want someone to connect with, and I never had to think this deeply about it. Like in childhood, in high school, I just meet someone, I like them, we go from there. But as an adult, I feel like I'm doing too much thinking, and like even just swiping for friendships and stuff like that is like a new concept.
It's more your choice, you know? Like you have to choose who you want to be with and who you want to make a friend. But also, like, going back to just the 20s where you're learning and things are changing. In college, a lot of people get into like partying, you know, drinking, even though we met and we were not into either of those.
Yeah.
And we're still not into either of those. But a lot of people, they do it because, you know, for the college vibe, the college experience, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then after college, they're like, why did I do that? So it's like they stop or they like slow down with that. And like you start looking for people who are similar to you in that aspect. So if you're in that phase where you're like, oh, I don't want to drink anymore, I don't want to party anymore, but then all your friends are still into that, it's like, I want to find people who are not into that.
Yeah. So. And I feel like too, the 20s is such a weird, like it's a hodgepodge of different people. There are some people who are just starting their career. There's some people who just got married. There's some people who have kids.
Yeah.
Like when I'm on Bumble and I see the range of like the 20s, right? Like there's so many different people in different times of their lives. So I feel like there's that added element. And does that have a say in your swiping? And I know we're focusing a lot on Bumble, but that's just because that's our experience with it.
That's how we meet people.
Yeah, but I do feel like it can play a role of like, oh, like, because if I'm swiping right and I see somebody has a lot of kids, I don't know if I'm not fit to be friends with somebody who has kids, but I just feel like right now I am trying to get out of my comfort zone and like hang out a lot, or not a lot, but more than I was before. And if you have a lot of children, I don't know if your flexibility for that would be as easy.
And also, your child is most likely your priority.
Yeah,
so
or it should be at least.
It should be. Yeah, so it's like if something comes up with your kid, like obviously you go for your kid. Like don't worry about this friendship. But at the same time, I'm kind of the same way. When I see someone who has kids, I'm like, I think we're just in completely different stages of life where I'm not sure we'll mesh well together.
And I feel like I'm maybe projecting because I know that if I had kids and I'm making new friends, I would want to make mom friends.
Me too.
Like, I wouldn't let go of my old friendships if they don't have kids, but I do think that community would be nice. And my sister has a kid now and she likes and values friends who have kids. And when I was talking to my sister, she's in the opposite side where it's like she wants someone who has kids and who can like relate on that level. Yeah. So do you have any tips for making friends?
Making friends?
Yes.
Ooh, I wouldn't say there's like, you know, a checklist or anything like that to make a friend. Honestly, for me, it's the same with everything. Like, if you want to do something, just start. For me, because I feel like it's really difficult to just meet people organically, especially since I do have, like, social anxiety. I overthink a lot, and I am shy. So, like, when I go out to, let's say I go to, like, a cafe, bookstore, whatever it is, I wouldn't expect someone to come up to me and be like, hey, I read that book too, you know, and then we talk about it and it's like, wow, now we're friends, you know, like let's exchange phone numbers. Like to me, that's something that happens in movies or like, you know, it's not, if someone came up to me like that, I'd be like, oh, hi.
But if that's you, then more power to you. But it's not personally what you do.
Exactly. So for me, because that's like, to me, that's difficult. I like to find the friendship, so that's why I'm on Bumble. And at first, like I said, when I was in that phase where I couldn't drive and COVID just kind of slowed down a little, I was okay with the online friendships. But ever since this year started and I've been wanting to get out of my comfort zone a lot more, I was like, you know, whatever, let me meet people. Let me go out and meet people. So like I said, it kind of depends how you define friendship and like what you're looking for in a friend. But for me, I was determined to meet people. So if I was talking to someone and I like their vibe, if it became like just small talk, I kind of either you know, I stop talking or I stop the conversation, or if I like them and I want to see where it goes, I just invite them out if they don't invite me out first. But before, whenever someone invited me out, I'd be very hesitant. I'd be like, oh, you know, I'm busy. I don't really want to, you know. Well, I don't tell them I don't want to. I'm like, you know, I'm busy. But now when someone does, I'm like, oh yeah, when are you free? You know, things like that.
And you did have that shift recently. So what do you think made that shift?
I feel like I've just been, last year was a low point for me, and I feel like I needed friendship at that time. And I was so used to doing things on my own and like being on my own, or like with my previous relationship, that I missed the friendship, and I never had like a super super close like connection with any like girls in general, but like making girlfriends.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know, this year I just wanna see where it'll go.
Yeah.
And so I went on a lot of dates.
Yeah.
It's only February.
I know. Like every weekend she'd have like a
Yeah.
lineup of girls that she's meeting from Bumble BFF, and I'm like, girl, that's
is insane.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's insane.
It's so different than how you were not that long ago.
Yeah, because like I told you, before this year started, before I met those girls, literally the last time I hung out with someone was you.
That's crazy.
And that was before my long-term relationship,
Yeah.
or like at the start of it. So it's been like at least 3 years, and I was like, I need to see people.
Yeah.
I need to get out there.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. It's been fun.
Yeah. I feel like for me, in terms of tips for making friendships, well, for one, I would definitely recommend Bumble BFF.
Yeah.
Because I am also not the type of person who's, I mean, sometimes like I might see a girl out and about, and like if I like her outfit, I might say something. But I do enjoy Bumble BFF. I do think though there is, I feel like I'm shopping when I'm
Yeah,
Bumble
no,
BFF.
that's for sure.
Yeah, in a way, like, I don't particularly like that about Bumble BFF, but at least where I am right now, I do think it's the most ideal way to make friends. In terms of tips, don't be like us, where we're like not gonna, well, you're not like that anymore, but we took way too much time
To meet someone.
Yeah, to hang out. And like, I'm very similar in that, like, if someone wants to hang out, not anymore because I know I want to get out of my comfort zone, but initially I would be trying to think of all these reasons why I couldn't. Like I would say yes, and then like, especially if it's like in a month in advance, I'm like, oh yeah, sure.
And then
Gets
when it comes up,
I'm like, oh my god, like I really have to go meet this person.
or you're like hoping that they have something come
Yes.
up, like, oh, I can't hang out. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, and like I think it's because anxiety, but then
For
you
sure.
know, I feel like we can't live our life and let anxiety control us. And I feel like too, once you are there, it's not that bad. Like
Yeah.
it's something that's like you built up in your head, and maybe it's just because of previous friendships or whatever the case may be that we make it sound like it's worse than it is. But when you're there, it's like, oh, this was easy.
Yeah.
I want to do this again.
Especially when it comes closer to you're seeing that person like an hour or two before.
Yeah.
Like my anxiety skyrockets. And I'm like, I get so nervous.
Yeah.
But I think that only happened, well, I mean, it happened with every girl I met, but it got better. You know, the feeling wasn't as strong.
Yeah.
Like the very first girl, I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, this is so scary.
But it got better with time.
It got better with time. I still felt like a tinge of like nervousness, but when I was in my car like ready to go see the person, I'm like, you've already done this like at least 5 times. Like,
Yeah.
what are you scared of?
Yeah.
So it's just that like little voice in your head, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like too, if you aren't down for Bumble BFF, online in general is just a really good place. There's so much community in online spaces, though I think it would be harder to find like in-person relationships that way, just because online is the whole world. So trying to find people that live next door or near you would be kind of tricky, but yeah.
But it goes back to like, what do you want in a friendship?
Yeah.
Like, if you're okay with the online friends, then there's nothing wrong with that.
True.
But if you want to go out and see someone, obviously like apps that allow you to meet
Yeah.
people in your area would be a better fit.
And yeah, and I feel like that's where I am right now, where it's like I want to make friendships in person, see people frequently, and just, I think that's all about my New Year's resolution of getting out of my comfort zone. And I feel like too, like even if you're more comfortable with online friendships, just socializing in general should be part of the social pie at some point. The frequency is completely up to you. But I don't know, I feel like, because you were talking about how last year wasn't the best year, and so you want to like have other things going on and fill whatever was going on like with good relationships and stuff like that. And I do think that being able to have people physically or virtually, but having a variety is also very nice, can help that. And I think with relationships, and that's why so many people fall into what we did, where it's like, oh, we have a boyfriend, so
Yeah.
you know,
It's like friends who?
yeah, and it's like people talk about this a lot, like, oh, now that someone has a boyfriend, then they don't like hang out with us. I think because of course there's like a honeymoon stage and whatever, but I don't know, it's just like when you're socializing with this person, and if they're your partner, they're probably your best friend, so
There's a level of comfort
Yeah,
that you feel with
but-
that person.
it is kind of sucky though. Like, let's say it doesn't work out, and then you want
Yeah.
someone, and if you neglected that friendship,
Yeah.
then it could probably, I can see why the friends might feel some type of way. And I don't know, I think that it's good to just no matter who you're with, if you're single, if you're not. Because, like, I would be really pissed if, like, let's say I had a friend. I don't, so I'm not adding anybody. Like, if I had a friend who would, like, have so many different boyfriends all the time, and then every time they're having a boyfriend, they don't talk to me, but then when they're single, then they talk. I would be annoyed.
Yeah,
like, I wouldn't want that type of friendship.
But also, the ones that kind of go to you only to talk about their relationship.
Oh, that's annoying.
Yeah, it's really annoying.
Yeah.
Especially if, like, because at one point when I wasn't in a relationship and this girl, she would only talk about her boyfriend. And I was like, are we friends or am I your therapist?
Yeah,
like,
period. And I remember I had a friend once who, she would talk a lot about her relationship and ask me too many questions about mine.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like,
sometimes you don't want to share that.
yeah, and I just want to, like, talk about,
like, us as friends.
Yeah. And I think too, it's a young thing. Like, when you are just starting dating, like, having a boyfriend so exciting.
Yeah.
Talking about, like, I don't know, like, boys is so exciting. And now it's so boring to me. Like, I meet people, like, through YouTube or whatever. I won't even know that they're married or have a boyfriend.
Yeah.
And I used to think, like, oh my god, tell me the tea. How'd you meet? Like,
Yeah.
I still like to hear those things, but I care more about the person than the relationship, because there's more interesting things to me than just, like,
for
the
sure.
relationship. So,
But I think it also just depends on, like, who you're talking to it with.
Yeah.
Because if the person is not, like us, if you're not interested in that, like, don't keep pushing it.
Yeah,
you know? But I think that's also something to do with boundaries, because, like, we could always bring up, like, you know, hey, stop talking about your boyfriend. But at the same time, it's kind of like, if you're not at that level of friendship, it feels impolite to do so. So you kind of just have to either stick with it or not talk to them anymore.
yeah. And I feel like, too, maybe that's something that people default into talking about just because,
it's easy.
yeah. And it's interesting,
Yeah.
which is fine. But, you know, you don't want to only spend time with your boyfriend, and then when you're not spending time with your boyfriend, you're talking about your boyfriend.
Yeah.
You're talking about how you're so different now
Yeah.
than you were even last year or however long ago, and I also feel that way. Like, not that I don't want to spend time with my husband or anything, but it's just like, now I'm okay, like, we're good, you know what I mean? Let me leave, let me go have fun
like,
things.
I see you all the time.
Yeah, like, we're fine, like, let's have friends over or something like that, or make friends and stuff.
Oh, that's the other thing I want to ask, because I have gotten this when I was in a relationship a couple times. People would ask about going on couple dates when you're just meeting someone. So yeah, so it's not like you're already friends with them and you, like, know them and you're like, hey, I know you and I kind of know about your boyfriend from hearsay. Do you want to go on a couple date? But it's more like, hey, I'm looking for couple friends. So how would you feel if someone approached you that way?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I see people on Bumble do that. Like, they'll have pages for a couple.
Yeah, for the couple.
I don't think it's, I mean, actually, maybe I do think it's weird, just because, like, let's say I like the girl, but my husband doesn't like the boy, or vice versa. It seems too fixed, like you're trying to push it, like push a puzzle piece. Yeah, you gotta make it work. I would so much rather it be individual. I don't know. Yeah, I feel like I would like to have a good relationship with the girl, and then maybe later, if like we're both not single, we can have double dates. Yeah. And same thing with if my husband has a friend, I want him to be friends with the guy, and then I can meet the partner or whatever. Because I had a lot of situations like that where I've met his friend's wife or girlfriend, and we just did not click, and it was weird. And I've tried so hard to find things to talk about with this girl, and it just wasn't working.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with him and his friendship, but like, if we're not clicking, then we're not clicking, so it is what it is. The idea in theory is cute. I really like that. Like, couple dates, like, we can just be one big friend group, whatever. But in practice, I don't think I would seek that.
Yeah, because in my previous relationship, he was very close to his friends, and they all had girlfriends. So, you know, he wanted me to be part of that girlfriend group. Yeah. But all of them, they were so similar to each other.
That, yeah.
But not to me.
Yeah.
So I just felt out of place, and I told him, I was like, I don't think I could be friends with them.
Yeah.
But he kind of, I don't want to say he kept pushing it, but at the same time, he was sad that I couldn't, you know, be that friend. And I was like, it's not sad for me. Yeah. They're not my people. So, like, you can have your friendships and I'll have mine.
Yeah. So. And I understand that, because it probably would be a nice little fairy tale to have all, like, you know, friends and girlfriends liking each other. But if it doesn't work, you can't force that's it. And like I said earlier, just because someone's nice does not mean that you guys will get along, you should be friends.
It's not genuine.
No.
Because I could have, pretended to be like them and be part of their group and, but it would have just not been who I am.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know, like, the things they were talking about, even the clothes they wore, it was all the same. And I was like, oh, I'm not that person.
Yeah. There's nothing really you can do. I mean, I feel like just like in a relationship, you can't force yourself to like somebody.
Yeah.
And same thing in a friendship. Like, if I don't like you, I don't like you. And that doesn't even mean then like you're a bad person or I'm a bad person. There's nothing wrong with just like acknowledging we're different people and like I just don't want to be friends. And sometimes that can be tricky with Bumble. Like, I don't know, I've never met someone from Bumble who, well, first of all, I haven't met many people from Bumble to begin with, but I've never met someone from Bumble and then later it not working out or like trying to like break up with them. Yeah, I've never had to do that. I mostly just stopped texting.
Oh, okay.
Or they stopped texting.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Because I don't think you really go about like, hey, I don't think we should be friends anymore. It's more like you just stop talking.
Yeah. Though, like, I get nervous thinking about, like, what if I met someone, what if they like me, but I don't like them?
Oh, yeah.
Like, what do you say? And what are your thoughts on ghosting?
Honestly, it depends because I tell people, like, straight up, hey, I'm not a good texter, like, I'm not going to be texting every day, like, if you want to talk, we can, like, meet up, voice messages, whatever. But if they send something and there's just no way for me to respond to it, I just won't respond.
Okay, so you're not anti-ghosting then?
Yeah, like, it's not a good feeling to get ghosted or to ghost someone, especially if you really vibe with them. But for me, like, if they don't send a message after I stop sending messages, then we both kind of...
Yeah, we know what's going on.
We both kind of ghosted each other.
Yeah.
Like, there's not much else to say.
Yeah. My thoughts on ghosting is that it's not that serious. At least with friendships too. Like, let's say you're dating someone and then you've been on so many dates in your relationship and then you just kind of like ghost them. Yeah. That's wild. But I think that if it's a friendship, or at least a potential friendship, like, if I stop texting, it's just because I'm not feeling you. And if you stop texting too, then it's mutual. Yeah. But if it's the point where they're, hey, just checking in. Hey, here I am again. Oh my god, I feel like crap.
No, I feel bad.
Yeah, and I don't think that's ever happened to me, thankfully. But yeah, in terms of ghosting, I don't think that it's a bad thing to do. Like in friendships, or at least potential friendships, because there's no, like you said, there's no way of being like, oh, I don't want to be your friend anymore, so I'm just gonna like stop talking to you. Like on a formal...
No one does that.
Yeah, nobody does that. I feel like all my friendships that have ended or fizzled out, well, for the most part, I can't even think of them. That's how probably like unimportant it was. But I guess maybe it's more of a big thing if it's like a close established thing and then you stop being friends.
But I feel like if you're really that close, then you would talk about it rather than them just straight out ghosting you. It'd be like you'll know that they're pulling away from you, and then maybe if you're brave, be like, hey, like, why are you pulling away from me? True. But if it's just someone that you've met once or twice and they just like stop talking to you, like, it's not that deep. Like, don't feel bad about it. It's just like maybe they'll contact you like again in a month, or maybe they just won't contact you ever again. Like, it sucks, but at the same time, it was only the start of something. It wasn't like, I hope you didn't invest too much of...
Yeah, and I think too, something that has to do with like whether you're compatible with friendships or not is how needy they are and the type of relationship that they want. Like, do they need an everydayer? Do they need to talk all the time? Because I don't need to talk to people every day to feel like they're still my friend.
Same.
And I remember too, I had someone say once that like, oh, best friends are supposed to tell each other everything. I remember I was like, that's a wild like statement to say, a very Disney Channel statement to say. And I feel like, in my opinion, I do not see a situation where you should have like an argument with a friend. Like, if you're a good friend, and I get it, like, not everyone's a good friend, so you're gonna have an argument maybe. Yeah. But like, it's just common like decency to know like, okay, I'm my own person, I'm gonna do my own thing. She's her own person, she's gonna do her own thing. So I don't see a reason to ever fight with a friend.
It's very childish.
It is wild. And so, I don't know, I feel like there are other things that I didn't even think about until I was in my 20s and trying to make new friends that came into play, like the neediness thing.
Yeah.
What do they expect in a friendship? They expect me to like tell everything? Like, are there boundaries? Like, it's a weird thing.
And I feel like when you're younger, if the arguments come into play, like I said, it's childish, but at the same time, when you're younger, I feel like it's harder to communicate things like boundaries. Like you don't exactly know what boundaries are, or if you do, it's like, how do you tell your friend, hey, don't do this thing, because it might be like uncomfortable to bring that up. But I think that's what defines like whether you're at that age, or like even just like mentally, or is it emotionally, like mature enough.
Probably like emotional intelligence.
Yeah, to differentiate between like what friendship feels childish and what feels like an adult one.
And I think when it's a good friendship, or not even a good friendship, because everyone has their own boundaries and whatnot, but I think naturally, if you're that comfortable with someone, you're gonna tell them a lot of things. Maybe not everything, but you'll tell them a lot of things and it'll just come out naturally. But to be so as like bold and have the audacity to say, best friends are supposed to tell each other everything. Tell me this.
To like demand that.
That's crazy, and crazy. You really don't owe anybody anything.
Exactly. Like, and that shouldn't define your friendship, you know, whether you're able to tell someone something or not.
If someone doesn't feel comfortable telling you something,
respect that boundary.
Respect it. And I think it's because, like, I don't want to get into, like, that friendship, but she responded to that because she was asking me something very personal. And maybe, like, a year ago I would have answered what the question she asked me, but we were no longer at that place in our friendship. We were distant. I felt uncomfortable. So I wasn't going to answer the question. And so then that's why she said it. So I feel like it could be like a boundary thing. It doesn't matter who you are, they just don't want to answer it. But also, if there's been a drift, not to say like, oh, maybe you're the problem, because it may be in that specific example, maybe she was the problem. But I do think having self-awareness, I don't know, is very important. And if things have changed, and I love how we're going on so many different tangents. I think we were talking about like tips, and then here I am spilling some tea. But anyways, having some self-awareness and knowing that like friendships do change, and like whether it's your preference or not, because you can't force things.
But also just know where you guys are, you know, because if she thinks you're still best friends, but you think, oh, I'm feeling distant and like I don't want to tell you certain things, then I don't know, I feel like there should be that kind of awareness in the way that you talk as well, because I feel when I'm talking to someone and I'm at a different comfort level, I talk differently.
Code switch.
Switch. So like I'm kind of easy to read. I feel like even if it's through text, I'm pretty easy to read. So if I'm speaking to you in kind of like a formal, or like, you know, you can tell if it's cold, if it's distant, then you should be able to pick that up, I feel like.
I agree. So all these things definitely come into play when it comes to like friendships and making friends, old friends, and all that. Do you have any final thoughts before my camera dies again?
Final thoughts. Like I said, like if making friends is what you want to do, go out and do it. You know, you're never gonna get to where you want to be if you don't actually put the effort into doing that thing. But also, if you are at a point in life where you're okay with not having friends, then that's okay too, you know? Like, do you figure out who you want to be, and then when you're ready, you know, make friends if you want to make friends.
Because there's a lot of self-development and growth that you could be doing if you want to, not that you need to be a certain way to make friends, but you can always, if you don't want to have friends for whatever reason, you can always redirect that energy somewhere else into yourself.
Because, I mean, even friendships take commitment. Like no matter what it is, like when you have a relationship with someone, whether it's like romantic or not, everything, you have to commit the time, the energy, you know, everything into that relationship.
That's on that. Final thoughts for me, I think if you are in your 20s, 30s, 40s, however old you are, it's very normal to not have friends at all periods of your life. And I don't feel like people really talk about that it is very normal. You have different seasons in life and you grow and change, so you might have old friends that are no longer your friend, but there's so much life to live and new friends to have. And I think there's a stigma sometimes of like, oh, I had like a friend since I was like 10 years old, and that means that they're more valuable than new friends. And I don't think that that's true. And if you have one of those experiences where everyone around you is like, oh yeah, I have such old like long-term friends, and you don't, that's fine. That's not a problem with you. It has nothing to do with you. But yeah, there's very many ways to make friends. You just have to put yourself out there, whether it's going to places, because there's so many things. Like you could go join a club, you can have an activity, you can volunteer, you can do a lot that I'm too scared to do at this moment in time. But if you are similar to us, then there's always the internet, there's always Bumble, there's YouTube, Instagram, DMing people. As long as you're safe, you know, if you're online, just make sure that you are not talking to strangers that you don't gradually get to know and FaceTime and
lots of catfishing.
Catfish. Even with friendships, there's scammers out there. But yeah, I had so much fun doing this.
Me too.
I feel like we're gonna have to do it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you have any other topics that you would like us to talk about, maybe we can film another video like this. Leave a comment in the comment section and we can do this again. This was so much fun. And also, like I said, Moo has her own YouTube channel, which I will put in the description. We filmed a video trying different donuts and giving our unpopular opinions. So if that's interesting to you, then click that video in the description. But other than that, I will see you next time. Bye! Bye!